Maria Sharapova's story begins in the small Russian town of Nyagin. She was born on April 19th, 1987. Her parents, Yuri and Yelena, were not wealthy, not connected, and not part of any tennis elite. What they had was vision. When Maria first picked up a tennis racket as a little girl, there was something different about her grip, her swing, her sheer determination. Even at the age of 6, she seemed to understand the discipline of the game in a way most children never could. Yuri, her father, made a life-changing decision. With just a handful of money and a burning belief in his daughter's talent, he moved Maria to the States so she could train at the Nick Bollettieri Tennis Academy in Florida. This wasn't glamorous, it was tough, lonely, and filled with sacrifice. Her mother couldn't even join them at first because of visa restrictions. So Maria spent those early years growing up fast, learning English, adjusting to American culture, and training relentlessly on the court. By the time she was a teenager, it was clear Maria wasn't just good, she was extraordinary. In 2001, she turned professional. 3 years later, in 2004, she achieved what most players spend a lifetime chasing. At just 17 years old on the grass courts of Wimbledon, she stunned the tennis world by defeating the reigning champion Serena Williams in the final. The image of a tall, blonde teenager lifting the Wimbledon trophy on center court became iconic overnight. She wasn't just Russia's rising star, she was a global phenomenon. From there, her career skyrocketed. Maria collected 5 Grand Slam titles over the years: Wimbledon in 2004, the US Open in 2006, the Australian Open in 2008, and 2 French Open titles in 2012 and 2014. Winning the French Open twice was particularly special because clay courts had always been considered her weakest surface. She transformed what was once her greatest challenge into one of her greatest triumphs, proof of her adaptability and stubborn willpower. Her style of play was fierce. The power of her serve, the aggression in her ground strokes, and that piercing, unmistakable grunt with every shot. It was all part of the Sharapova presence. On the court, she was icy, focused, almost untouchable. Off the court, she became one of the most marketable athletes in the world, commanding endorsements from major global brands and becoming a household name beyond tennis. But greatness always comes with trials. Injuries, especially persistent shoulder problems, haunted her career. Each surgery and rehabilitation forced her to rethink her technique, but she always returned, never willing to give up. Then came 2016, when the tennis world was shocked by news that she had tested positive for meldonium, a substance newly banned at the time. It was a storm that could have ended her career right there. Yet Maria faced the situation head-on, admitting her mistake, serving her suspension, and returning to the court in 2017. Many athletes would have crumbled, but not Sharapova. Even when her ranking slipped and her performance dipped, her determination to fight back never wavered. By February 2020, however, her body had endured enough. Maria announced her retirement, closing the book on an extraordinary athletic journey. She left the sport with 36 singles titles, over $38 million in prize money, an Olympic silver medal, and countless memories etched into tennis history. Her induction into the International Tennis Hall of Fame in 2025 would later seal her place among the greatest to ever play the game. But if you think her story ended there, think again. Maria Sharapova is not someone who disappears quietly. Even during her career, she had already planted seeds for her life after tennis. One of her earliest ventures was Sugarpova, a luxury candy line that became a multi-million-dollar brand. At first, people laughed. Why would a professional athlete launch a candy company? But Maria knew better. It wasn't just about sweets. It was about building a brand, telling a story, and exploring life beyond the court. Sugarpova became a statement of her entrepreneurial spirit. After retirement, she broadened her portfolio. She invested in wellness companies, got involved in fashion and beauty projects, and most recently, she turned her attention to design. She launched her own line of office furniture, inspired by the endless hours she had spent in bland boardrooms after tennis. She wanted to create spaces that were stylish, functional, and inspiring, furniture that reflects personality, not monotony. For Maria, this wasn't just business, it was self expression, proof that she could dominate in new arenas, just as she once did in sports. Behind all these ventures, though, a more personal story was unfolding. Maria had found love. In 2018, she began dating Alexander Gilkes, a charismatic British businessman with ties to the art and luxury worlds. Gilkes, known for his creative flair and polished demeanor, was a perfect match for Maria's intensity and ambition. In December 2020, the couple announced their engagement. Then, in July 2022, Maria and Alexander welcomed their first child, a son named Theodore, affectionately called Theo or simply T. Motherhood has reshaped her priorities. Maria, once defined by constant training and global tournaments, now speaks about the joys and challenges of raising her son. She shares glimpses of her life on social media, family walks, cozy mornings, her son's tiny hands clutching hers, but she protects his privacy fiercely, never revealing too much. For her, Theo is not part of her brand. He's her heart, her anchor, her most important role yet. Maria and Alexander split their time between Europe and the US, though they recently decided to sell their stunning custom-built home in Manhattan Beach, California. The sale symbolized a new chapter, a life less tied to the spotlight and more centered on family, travel, and building a future together. Interestingly, one of her former Southern California homes ended up in the hands of NBA star Luka Doncic, proof that even in real estate, Maria's name continues to resonate. Even now, Maria remains a figure of fascination. Her Hall of Fame induction brought her back into tennis headlines, reminding everyone of her enduring legacy. Her business projects keep evolving, her design ventures attract attention, and her entrepreneurial vision keeps expanding. She's proving that athletes can transition gracefully, carrying their competitive fire into entirely new spaces. So, what does the future hold? For Maria, the possibilities are wide open. She will likely continue to grow her businesses, explore new industries, and maybe even return to tennis in a new role, perhaps as a mentor, commentator, or ambassador for the sport. She has the wisdom, the experience, and the charisma to influence the next generation of athletes. For her family, the future looks equally bright. With Gilkes' creative ventures and Maria's relentless drive, they are a true power couple. Parenthood has given them a new sense of purpose, and though Maria hasn't publicly said whether they plan to have more children, many speculate that Theodore might one day have siblings. What's most striking about Maria Sharapova today is how comfortable she seems outside the competitive chaos that once defined her. She has traded roaring stadiums for quiet mornings, endless travel for intentional living, and trophies for toddler laughter. She no longer needs to prove herself to the world. She already did that again and again. Her story is no longer just about winning matches. It's about resilience, transformation, and creating a meaningful life beyond fame. From a determined little girl in Russia to a teenage Wimbledon champion, from the world's top ranked player to a mother and entrepreneur, Maria Sharapova's journey is proof that true champions never stop evolving. And as we look ahead, one thing is clear: Maria Sharapova will always be remembered as more than an athlete. She is a symbol of grit, grace, and reinvention, a woman who turned every setback into a comeback and every ending into the beginning of something new.